Year-old child, I asked my dad, who was the toughest lineman you ever faced? He said, the nose guard for Ohio State. And I said, why was that? I was an 11-year-old child. You think your dad won every game, made every tackle, and always came home happy? He said, because when I went to block him, he wasn't there. And I said, where was he? He said he was making the tackle. They played a 5-3 then, and it was a little harder to get to the nose guard. I didn't know that then as an 11-year-old child. Wow. So many people came. I'd like to thank the committee for putting this together. I know they had a dozen phone calls from the Ranii family about where am I sitting? Am I at the right table? And gosh, I couldn't sit next to him. You don't know my brother. But if you took my points and my brother's points and H's points all together, we didn't have 1,000 H. But what a story, Bobby, about Dave Thomas. In doing some research on the family, I found out a lot of things. Pretty special things. And I didn't know that my dad went to high school at the same time that my uncle did. They graduated together. They were good friends. They were on winning teams. His team was 7-1-1. I didn't know that. The next team was 9-0, undefeated, unscored upon. One state. I didn't know. We didn't know much about Dad's football history, or past, really. It was interesting, though. In doing the research, I found out so much. I found my dad played in front of the largest crowd at the University of Pittsburgh. 60,000 people. He made the first tackle his freshman year and heard the roar of the crowd. I didn't know. And then he played in front of the smallest crowd at the University of Pittsburgh when they played Bethany. Frank, couldn't you send more people? 1,500. But you have to understand something. My dad, my uncles that are here tonight, grew up in a different time. It was 1943. And in 1943, there was a lot going on in this country. To understand what was going on, I'd like to read the dedication that I got from the Aspinwall yearbook. The dedication goes as follows. Ours is a fortunate generation. In spite of the obvious handicaps we face, as liberty crumbles in countries abroad, our determination takes deep root to prevent the same collapse here. The early Cavaliers loved adventure, their will to win, and their ability to do battle fit them well for their exciting role. We, Cavaliers of Aspinwall, too, accept the challenges hurled at us from all directions. God keep you now and evermore. My friend Jim Campbell told me what a good speech is. And I said, pardon me? He said, a good speech is like a miniskirt. I said, what? He said, it's like a miniskirt. He said, short enough to keep their attention, but long enough to cover the essentials. So I can keep on speaking because all I'll be thinking about is a miniskirt. So I don't get so emotional. First, I'd like to thank the Fox Chapel Sports Hall of Fame for remembering George Ranii for his accomplishments at Aspinwall High School and then on to the University of Pittsburgh, where he became captain of the football team and four-year letterman. I also like to acknowledge his two brothers here this evening, Carmelo Ranii and James Ranii. Both served in World War II and were able to work and grow up in the same community where they lived. Thank you for that service. I know my dad would not have been the athlete he was without his two brothers challenging him. He always said my uncle was pretty good. My other uncle pitched in the Philippines, caddied for the U.S. Open champion, played a pretty fair game of golf himself, but it took a lot to get that out of him. In addition, I'd like to welcome my sister Carol, a special ed teacher, my brother Bill and Susan, who have continued Dad's commitment to dentistry in Aspinwall, where the family practice has been for 64 years. Don't screw it up now. Dad was gifted by having very quick feet for a football player that size. He weighed 230 pounds when he played at Pitt. At that time, he was 60 pounds heavier than the average player. Dad wanted to be remembered not just as a good football player, a good dentist, and he would tell you he was a good dancer. Mrs. Birdie, is that true? But he wanted to be remembered as a good person, a good husband, a good father, and a good friend. By the turnout this evening, it seemed he accomplished those things. Bill, is there anybody left in Plummox? Thank God for the internet, by the way. When describing my dad to others, I would say he was a tough, no-nonsense kind of guy. When Dad entered the room, you felt his presence. On the football field, he was one of those Western PA studs with aggressive spirit and a tenacious desire. My dad had a game face that was intense and piercing. I think all of us have seen a dad with that kind of face. I'm not sure anybody enjoyed blocking him or being blocked by him, for he played 58 minutes a game, going both ways, playing offensive guard and defensive tackle. He always said he was the fastest man on the field the first 7 yards, but he wasn't made for the long sprints and therefore never on the kickoff team. That made sense. Dad was fortunate to excel at the things he loved: football, family, dentistry, and friends. I think that's how I describe his life. Dad was a Vince Lombardi disciple. I asked the kids today, do you know what the Super Bowl trophy's called? He changed the Vince Lombardi quote to fit his liking. He would say, it's not whether you get knocked down in life or not, but it's what happens after that will determine your success. He would remind me, keep your eyes up, run for daylight, and never give up. Sonny Ruggieri repeated those things to me when he came today. He seemed to say those things time and time again, and they meant so much more than what happened on the football field. He never talked much about his accomplishments, but that whole generation was told, look forward and don't look back, nor rest on your past success. So in closing, thank you, Fox Chapel Sports Hall of Fame, for recognizing George Ranii for his football accomplishments at Aspinwall High School and then on to the University of Pittsburgh. He would like to be remembered for his dedication to football, family, dentistry, and friends. Thank you.